I'm Professor Lee, who loves you, viewers of Gold and Silver Flower TV. Relationships are really like complicated and subtle art. In particular, the approach and the way of conversation that casually crosses the boundaries of others' minds make us confused. Sometimes it's unpleasant. On the surface, it may not seem like a big deal. In reality, it's a very sensitive area where emotional boundaries, emotional intentions, and people's hidden motives collide. How can we maintain our own focus in this complicated situation? Today, with this important episode of the Mind, Boundary and Discrimination series, I'm going to talk about how can I keep my balance among people who are not normal? Maybe there are a lot of people around us who are more emotionally unstable than you think. They look lively and friendly on the outside, but soon their words and actions don't add up. There are times when emotions shake, like rough waves, and uncomfortable energy that only you don't know comes out. How can we maintain our unshakable center in this situation? Let's find the answer together. Let's talk about some strange, repetitive behaviors that we can easily find around us. There was an old man who played drums passionately in one practice room. He was always good at drumsticks and gave himself to rhythm. His performance used to bring a lot of energy to the whole practice room. But one day, an old lady approaches him and says, "Oh, you're such a good drummer. You're so cool." What's unique here is that the old lady who said this is older than the drum guy. In general, in Korean society, older people tend to be more cautious when naming their subordinates. Her use of these titles was already beyond the conventional boundaries of society, and the way he spoke was somehow mixed with strange, forced laughter and exaggerated emotions. It was as unnatural as a scene in a play. The kind of friendliness that made the listener feel uncomfortable. They were words that obviously violated the personal boundaries of others, which felt awkward and too close to each other. But this approach didn't stop with just one old lady. Another lady is starting to approach in a similar way. She also praised the drum man's performance and expressed excessive intimacy. Soon after, the two ladies continued to talk to the drum man, as if they were competing with each other, and attempted an awkward communication. Mr. Drum didn't respond to their behavior. He just silently focused on his drumming, and never responded to their excessive attention. But the ladies don't care. They seem to be trying to take the lead in the conversation. I kept asking questions and trying to exchange glances. There are some signs of emotional manipulation hidden in this situation. It's not just an expression of intimacy. It can be a covert attempt to manipulate the other person's emotions. First, you are not interested in the other person, but you are forced to express compliments and friendliness. Compliments that are not sincere can cause inconvenience to the other person. That intention is often questionable. This overpraise can be a technique that breaks down the opponent's defense mechanisms and approaches them under the guise of intimacy. Second, when they are particularly excited, and when someone appears, they suddenly stop talking. This means that they are reluctant to let others know what their conversations are about. Maybe it's a psychological defense mechanism to hide the uncomfortable truth that is difficult to tolerate socially. It's an attempt to build their own secret territory. Third, the moment an outsider enters, the atmosphere around him changes as cold as a lie. This reflects the psychology of being wary of outsiders, or afraid of exposing their actions or conversations. It's an act of fear that their secrets will be revealed. This suggests that they may have been having some inappropriate relationship or conversation. Finally, it's an attempt to turn the question around and dig out the other person's information. These questions are not just out of curiosity. They may be intent on invading the other person's personal territory, collecting information, and using it for their own purposes later. Sometimes people ask me this: "Where do you work?" This question is very private. It's a very inappropriate question to ask at first sight. Unless it's a business relationship. Then, we get flustered. Questions about the other person's job are very cautious private questions. At that moment, the atmosphere is more cautious. Because it's not just a curiosity. It's a subtle and persistent attempt to cross private boundaries. These questions can be used to determine the other person's job or income level. And make a judgment about that person. It could even lead to an attempt to catch the other person's weaknesses. So why do these people behave this way? The strange way they speak. Awkward approach. People who approach recklessly regardless of age. It's not just a matter of personality. It's deeply related to the emotional instability that lies deep within them. Most of these are people who have long been emotionally neglected. You didn't get enough love and attention when you were young. You may have had difficulty establishing a healthy relationship with others during your social life. As a result, I had a habit of forcing myself to exaggerate my emotions to get someone's attention. You didn't learn to respect and consider other people's boundaries properly. So you don't know what you're saying makes someone uncomfortable. You often think that it's an expression of interest in the other person. Even when you're distracted by someone. This behavior sometimes results from self-centered thinking. It appears when you lack the ability to empathize with other people's feelings. They are either unaware of the effects of their actions on others. Or even if you're aware of it, you tend to think it's more important to meet your needs. What should we do? So, how should we react in these situations? The way we respond is, it should be done in a way that protects one's mental health, while avoiding unnecessary conflicts. First, we need wisdom to make sure that we don't make enemies. By marking lines firmly, this means soft but clear rejection of the other person's approach. For example, it's a polite refusal to say, "It's hard to talk about personal things comfortably." You have to keep your boundaries clear while avoiding unnecessary friction. Disrespect and firmness must be distinguished. Second, we must establish a principle that never specifically answers private questions. Personal information becomes an important shield to protect yourself. It's hard to tell you about that, or, thank you for your curiosity. It's a personal story, it's better to avoid it with a general answer. Or a vague answer like, as soon as they provide detailed information, they get an excuse to dig deeper. Third, inaction is the most effective countermeasure for abnormal emotional approaches. The emotional reaction rather encourages the other person's obsession. It could be like giving them food worth responding to. It is important to be consistent with an expressionless and calm attitude. Avoid the other person's eyes and not continue the conversation for a long time. Sometimes it's the smartest thing to do to not answer at all. The most important thing is not to lose my balance. The key is not to be swept away by the chaotic energy around you. And to keep your inner self strong. As the Proverbs chapter 423 say, protect your heart more than anything you can protect. The source of life is from here. These words emphasize that our hearts are the source of life. It reminds you how important it is to protect your mind from outside temptations or attacks. Keep in mind that protecting my heart is the only way for me to survive in the world. As much as physical health, protecting mental health, that is, peace of mind. It's the power to live completely in this chaotic world. This series is about the relationship between people and the flow of emotions. It will be a deep content that shares wisdom that protects faith and life. Today, through this story, we're not just interested. You can get the wisdom to distinguish the behavior of people who try to get into an emotional dig, especially the act of trying to make eye contact and trying to talk to them goes beyond mere kindness. It's often a persistent attempt to make up for your own deficiencies. They may have an insatiable sense of loneliness or a need for recognition. It could be an unconscious attempt to solve this problem through others. Even if you don't talk to them, There are people who approach you with their eyes, gestures, and presence. These nonverbal approaches can sometimes be more powerful and cause inconvenience than verbal approaches. We can be vigilant and sensible enough just by not making eye contact and not responding. It's a smart way to communicate your intentions without sending a message of positive rejection. We sometimes avoid unnecessary entanglement of relationships through silence and indifference. You can use your wisdom to protect your soul. This is a more valuable attitude in an era where social media and excessive self-expression are emphasized. It means a posture of mind that protects oneself from unnecessary relationships and focuses only on what is true. If you can relate to this, please subscribe and like notification settings. It's a great help to make a video. Your interest and support will be the driving force for making better content. I'll be back with another interesting topic in the next video. Thank you.